This is day 705 of going live for me, dude. I'm so glad you're part of this, dude. I'm gonna hit a thousand.
700.
I think I'm gonna hit 1,000 days of going live in a row, and then I think I'm gonna take 1 day break, Brian. That's what I'm
There
gonna
you
do,
go. That's a good idea.
just to show that it's not in control of me.
Yeah, yeah. Takes 1,000 days to show it, but
All right, let me share my entire screen. Boom. Okay, so just for the people that are watching right now, what Brian and I have been working on is essentially coming up with a path, and maybe it's good to kind of set the presence here, right? For folks, if you ask ChatGPT, what is the best podcast on affordable housing investments ranked and why? You ask ChatGPT that question right now, you will get our podcast right here. And when Brian and I thought, okay, great, so what? We're like, how do we help other people at scale? And that's where Brian and I came up with an idea where we said, hey, let's create an agent that allows us to take all the content that has made us the #1 podcast for affordable housing and use that knowledge to help answer questions about affordable housing, Section 8, et cetera, with an AI agent that's essentially a clone of ourselves. And to make things real, I think everybody can see what a spreadsheet looks like. And this is super cool because let's see, like this was a question that was posted on Reddit, right? It posed this agent right now essentially scans Reddit for any question that has been related to Section 8, and we can kind of update it if necessary. And it would look at the question and say, hey, in this scenario, it says, hey, anyone who has done Section 8 tenants, like, what are their steps? Bond not the best area. So just contemplating just renting on Section 8. And boom, this is a question. I mean, this is the answer that our AI agent has come up with, just drafted. And I would argue that this is probably 70-80% of the way there, just as a draft. I might tweak some of the details here, might throw in a few more nuggets, but this is like really good. And it's taken us probably almost 2 months to get to this stage. But Brian, this has been like just an incredible work, man. So let me just stop and just recognize you for it, because this is pretty badass, to be honest with you, getting
yeah,
to this
thank you, man.
stage.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
I love it.
Dude, so let me share with us. So I know we want to talk about like what the updates are that we're going through and the problems that we've been facing in the next iteration. Help people understand like what should we be looking at today, in terms of like the problems that you've been facing as you're trying to improve this agent for us.
Yeah. So the big piece I've been working on this past week is we want a way to input information that doesn't already exist in the transcripts. So
Mm,
any gap in information needs to get filled in, and so we need to
yep.
have our Supabase be able to learn and take in new information, and then be able to use that for other questions that might be similar. So if you click in the Update Supabase node with Q&A,
Hmm.
um, what we're really doing is we're looking at that Google sheet that we had open for Section 8,
This one
and
right here.
yeah, yeah.
Got it.
And what that is doing is whenever an update happens, you could set it to the minute, the hour, the day. It will look for if you give a response feedback and you type in send in the
Mm,
response column, then it will trigger off a new flow. And if you open up that code node, you can see kind of an example at the towards the bottom. It's kind of a long list of things, but
okay.
there's the third one from the bottom should have a send and then a little response. Um, let's see, right there. So in there, the feedback would have a nice um, explanation of additional information. Like, let's say there's a nugget of information, like you mentioned, Kent, then you'd put it right in
Hmm.
there and you click send. It would capture that. And this is just an example of dummy data, so I could do some testing.
Yes.
But then we'd move on to the next step. So if we go back out of that, um, click on the message model. So we have the feedback, we have the question. So this is our prompt to ChatGPT 4.1. We basically want to find any questions. We
Hmm.
want to basically make a summary of the question. So we're going to take the
Yep.
title and we're going to take the body of that Reddit post and we're going
Uh-huh.
to turn it into a simplified question. And then from there, we want to pass that question. Like, here's an
Yep.
example. how do you pick between Section 8 tenants? That's the title. Bought in a bad area. So this is a real example that was used. What are the
Hmm.
metrics that you use to pick Section 8 tenants? Example output. What are the steps to rent to Section 8 tenants? So keeping it concise, simple, straight to the point. There's a lot of fluff in that title and body, so we just kind of want to boil it down,
Mm.
and then we want to pass that on to the next piece. So
Pass that on to the next piece. And let me say it back to you, right? So, what you're doing right now is once we feel like we have come up with a satisfactory answer to the question on Reddit, Biggerpockets, etc., we will then say send. So that's our command, like, hey, this response is now good to go. And once we send it, you're essentially paraphrasing or making the question more concise so that you create a new section or a new chunk, so to speak, in our database. So that if we get another question along the same lines or parameters or context, then will have a much more accurate answer in the future. Am I saying that back to you correctly?
yeah, correct.
Okay.
So we want to do that summary of the question because we're getting a title and a body where there's a question in there, but we don't know exactly. Like
Mm,
it becomes difficult to match. And what we want to do is we want to see if there's anything existing that we could find, and if not, we want to add something new so that it can be findable. We can search for it. So if you go to the trigger and you click execute, this is fine to trigger right now because it's not actually inserting anything. So on the left where you were first, kind of by that code node, the first one,
this one,
then right next to it, there's that red button there.
execute.
Yeah. Yep. Click execute. We'll see it go through, and I want to show this piece of it executing because if you click on the Supabase vector node,
This one.
yeah, what we have in here is an example. So in the prompt, I'm taking that AI model, message a model that we were just
Uh
looking
huh.
at, and
Yep.
the question it summarizes is there a way to discreetly market my rental property without alarming my current tenant? And this is Section 8 related.
Huh.
Um,
Interesting.
and so what it's doing is it's going into our vector database. It's looking for a human in the loop answer that matches that, and you can
Mm.
see I've had to put one dummy data row. So what it actually returns is something with a very low confidence score. It's like 0.015. It's like I'm not
Oh, I
confident that
see.
this matches the question that's being asked, but I'm going to return what I have. And so now we know, like, okay, this is probably not the right answer, but we have something. What can we do with this? So if we go back out again and look at the next node.
So this is I don't want to harp on. I don't want to miss this detail
Mhm.
because what you're doing right now is essentially this is why retraining AI or especially cloning yourself, getting a better version of yourself is so important because eventually you might have some details in there that's not relevant to the question. And I'm not sure if anyone has ever asked like ChatGPT like certain question and it just wasn't like a great answer. But that's what happens because they just do whatever they do the best they can. But
Mhm.
our goal with what we're doing right now is training it so that it can have a higher confidence score and 0.015 that's really low, right? I'm
Yeah,
assuming
exactly.
really
And so
low.
real quick, actually, before you back out, sorry.
Hmm.
This is what this is really doing is it's getting many. We have it set to 4 because we're being pretty concise. Like we're saying, if there's not 4 items with a decent enough confidence score, we're going to do something else. So we only need 4
Mm,
items. We're going to re-rank them with the cohere re-rank outside. That's part
interesting.
of it. We're making sure that the type is human in the loop answer, so that we're not looking through the transcripts yet. We don't want to go that path yet. Um,
I see.
and then if there was something that matched that question somewhat closely, we would get maybe a 7.5 or maybe an 8 or an 8.5. Um,
Uh,
and then from there, we can say if it is a high score, then let's do something. If it's not, let's do something else. So now we can go out.
got it.
Um, and then from there, the if is just basically saying if the confidence score is 0.85 or higher. Let's
This one. Got it.
yeah.
Got it.
So 0.85, I think that's a good starting ground. We might have to fine tune that a little bit, but
Hmm.
um we don't want to be putting bad questions and like kind of messing up the data that way. So we want to make sure that like the question exists or doesn't exist. And if it doesn't exist, let's say if it's a low confidence score, like we just saw,
Mm-hmm.
then what we would do is go back out, and in the super base vector store on the right, we would load in a new row into our super base. We would give it a
Uh-huh.
content type human in a loop answer. We would pass in
Mm-hmm.
the question, and we would then also pass in the answer. So
Got it.
what I'm doing currently, I actually didn't save, but let me save real quick.
Okay.
And then you can refresh the page.
Sounds good. Let me know
And there's,
when.
go ahead. Yeah, just reload it. There will actually be one more node that I'm working on.
Sweet.
So that code node right there, we don't want to run this again, but if you open it up real quick, you can see this is where we'll start to build our new row. So it's going to keep the same
Mm.
format as our other rows that we have for transcripts. The only difference is it will have a message, or sorry, a question, and then
Mm.
we'll give it an answer, and then it'll have a new type. So
Got it.
yeah.
So this applied to any business, right? Essentially, you have a set database. Let's say it's a plumbing business, right, Brian? Let's say there are common questions or troubleshooting questions like, hey, my water heater isn't working, right? And there might be
Mhm.
common questions just available on the internet that says like, hey, this is typically what you would do. But then maybe someone says like, hey, my water heater is a Ream, model number, blah, blah, blah. And then now all of a sudden, because it's you gotten more information as a plumber, you might say, oh no, the switch is over here, or the pilot is buttons over here to reset it or something like that. And that's how
Mhm.
you train itself over time to answer new questions. That's why it's so important for you to figure out like, hey, is there a question in our databases like this is how you reset a water heater? But if someone says, hey, this how do I reset a Ream tankless gas water heater? That's more specific. And maybe we don't have that confidence. That's why you got to have this if check that says, hey, are we confident that this question exists? And if not, then load it into the database as a new question because it's going to require a new answer. And that helps you build the base over time. What did I miss on that?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think for each use case, like if this is a plumbing company, we just have to figure out the best way to get the answers.
Hmm.
It's all about the data and how you work with it. This whole scenario of adding in from transcripts to now questions and answers being in like a mixed data type, um,
Hmm.
you have to navigate it differently. So the next piece is like we have two types, and we maybe it'll work where we can, just do a lookup on a question from Reddit, and
Hmm.
we query both at the same time and it works fine. Or
Mm.
we might have to do two separate calls. And I think that's okay because one is dedicated for additional information that you're adding, you're
Hmm.
updating with your own knowledge. And then the other is knowledge that you've accumulated and you've added it all at once through transcripts. So that'll be part of the
Yes.
flow too. Like when we look up a question, we have to update um, our initial query for when a Reddit post comes in. That'll be the next step. We'll say, hey, look for
Mm.
transcripts that match. Also look for questions and answers, and try to find a middle ground and try to best match an answer to this person's question. So there's a little bit of complexity depending on how you design it. And I think
Yes.
each use case, there's probably going to be little tweaks to how you end up approaching this topic. But um, for the most part, like this is a very viable and kind of simple solution that I think anyone can implement.
Yeah, because it's almost like you're looking up the transcript data, and then you're looking up your own Q&A based on your own experience, whether that's in real estate, whether you're not as a plumber, etc. And then maybe in the future, if we want to ever enrich our data, like, hey, let's say we know that this is another big affordable housing developer and they have these resources. For example, Novogradac has a lot of resources that teaches people about how to calculate low income housing tax credits. Hey, some of that material is good. So maybe you want to pull some of that in to provide some additional details there. So then you got to figure out like, okay, how do I actually come up with a score, or how do I come up with an answer that might take the best of all three worlds? And I can see why you say that that's where the complexity will come from. It's because you might be pulling all three and you're trying to like mash it together to see if you get a good answer or not.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll say too, I was going to show the Supabase side of things, but it's maybe better if I can try to explain it. One of the things I texted you before our call about some complexity I ran into was around
Yeah.
Supabase. There wasn't a type field, so I had to manually run a SQL function that gave a type of transcript to all of the rows inside of our Supabase for all the transcripts.
I
And
see.
then I was like, okay, so this should be easy then. I can just make new rows with a type of human in the loop answer. But the problem was when I started to query for type transcript, nothing would show. I was like, what is
Huh.
going on? And I was running tests and everything was coming back without the type. But when I look in the database, I would see the type. And so that was a bit of a hurdle. And so there's formatting things going on. There's stuff happening under the hood with SQL that I'm not a pro with SQL. I don't use it on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
ChatGPT had to help me. I had to kind of like
Right.
vibe session with ChatGPT and figure out what was going
Yes.
on until I eventually figured out, what was happening. I had to create another new function to be able to call and grab the new types because the original function didn't have the type in the metadata. So
Where is that? So how did you create a new function to
y-
call the new metadata type? If I
yeah, let me.
may.
Is it okay if I share?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Let me stop sharing so you
Let's
can share.
see. Can I share entire screen? Here we go. All right, we're gonna go into the endless loop for a second. Okay, so here in our Supabase, you can see these are all the rows and columns.
Mm-hmm.
All of the transcripts have this type now, which is great. We could do that update all at once. And where that takes place here is in the SQL editor. So find records. So I think I already ran it. Let's see. These are a few commented out pieces. Select.
Could you zoom in a little bit? Is it possible?
Yeah, let me see. Okay.
Boom.
Is that okay? Cool.
Yes.
So I don't remember which one. Here we go. Update section 8 where metadata equals metadata, or this to me in JavaScript is an or. So I don't know if it's an or in SQL, but I think you're basically setting the metadata to itself, but you're adding the JSON-B formatted of type transcript. And then it's setting the location because it's inside of there, or it's making sure that these rows aren't affected. So I don't really, again, I'm not super big SQL guy. I don't
Yeah.
know, but basically this updated every row essentially. And so some of these are just querying to make sure that we have the type and it exists,
Got
so
it.
on and so forth. But when you initialize your vector store, it creates this function called match documents. And what
Huh.
you'll notice that in here, that it pulls out all of the rows that we have. So, for example, if I run a Supabase query right here,
Mm-hmm.
it's just going to pull naturally. It would just pull page content, metadata, and then ID and those things. In our case,
Mm-hmm.
so what was happening is this wasn't showing at all. So I had to create a new function called match documents with metadata.
I
And
see.
up here, I think it's right here. Yeah, match documents with metadata. It's very similar to the last one, except it does a few filter type things on the metadata. And so that actually allows me to see the metadata. And then from here, I can say, okay, the type is accurate. I can move forward and we can make the types work the way we want to.
So I guess maybe, and I love talking out loud with you because to make sure like I understand what's going on,
Mhm.
because essentially when we uploaded all the data, we did not label that data as podcast data. And this was
Exactly.
a one-time fix for us to go back and update everything that we've had to date with the tag podcast. But in the future, let's say we're helping another client, helping another customer, different type of business. Now we know like, hey, this data or this question is from all historical questions that were asked by my customers so that we wouldn't have to do the SQL exercise again, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah,
Mm.
we would need to make sure that we set type in the beginning,
Mhm.
and that would make things much easier. It's manageable coming in and adding it as long as you don't have mixed data to begin with.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Otherwise, you'd probably be better off just removing all the lines and then re-uploading everything one by one. But that's a
Got it.
pain, and I wouldn't recommend it. So let me see if there's anything else that kind of came with a bit of an issue. This one, um, this one was weird. So just for technical understanding, like here we want to look for type human in the loop answer, where type is that.
Mhm.
And I actually had to manually um, create a new function to call so that we could have a single row that we could query for. And the reason we have to have a single row available is because I can't use an if I don't have anything being returned by our vector node. So
I see.
this would be empty and it wouldn't even go to the if, and I couldn't do any logic to say, even if nothing exists. It's possible maybe a code node would work here first and then we could do an if, but it was basically giving me a response that nothing nothing to do. There's nothing left to do, so it's gonna end
Mm.
that node there.
For
So
people that
that,
don't know what a code node does, like, why do you have a code node? What is a
uh,
code node for?
the code node allows me to take previous inputs. Like for example, the most recent relative to this node is the if. So I'm on the if, and all I have is the response from our Supabase. So this is the low relevant score question. And we don't want to use this. We want to use uh, right here the summarized question. So, are there discrete ways to market my rental property to investors without alarming the current tenant? So, this example, I want to take this question and I want to add it to our content. And I also want to take something from a previous node, which would be right here. I want to find the node with send, which, let's see. Oh, maybe it's at the top. Where is it? Let's look through here.
Mm.
Yeah, so we want to take this and we want to take the feedback as well and give that to the
Got it.
page content as an answer so that I can see a question, have an answer ready, and then we want to set the type human in the loop. This is where we're gonna build the new row manually, and we need the code
Mhm.
node to be able to kind of jump through the different pieces to build it, so that once it finally goes to the Supabase store, um, it has every part of the JSON it needs.
Mm. How much was what we discovered on YouTube through like FutureMind was kind of applicable to how we're building out here? Did you take any elements from there? Did you learn anything from that model? Remember the
Um,
self-learning Asian guy?
yeah, I think he had like an Indian accent.
Yes,
I'm trying to
correct.
think. Was it
Because I
not
think you
this
had
one?
it in your NAN instance under self-learning agent test.
Yeah, let's see. Can he self-learning? Let me see his flow again. So let's jump into it. Where is it? Here we go. Yeah, he's using it with email. That's what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Pause. Sorry, I'm just trying to
No problem. It's
get
all
a
good.
refresher. Okay, let's close that. So Gmail node AI agent. Turn that off.
Because the section on the right hand side, that's almost like what you're doing, but you're using your confidence score to update the database first,
Mhm.
whereas they're using a confidence score to decide where to send something first,
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting.
I remember the weird thing with his was he had that dynamic prompt as we talked about.
Yeah.
So he I don't know if like he is using a Supabase vector store. I don't remember his use case exactly. I think it was like some technical questions. I really don't remember.
Yeah, they were trying to
Um,
find information for their company documents or something like that. It's kind of interesting.
engineering team. So maybe, yeah, um, some field service management type stuff going on here. Um, so the original email is this. Yeah, it looks like he was doing, yeah, draft email responses with human feedback. So giving information to update his Supabase. Let me look
Mm-hmm.
at this other piece. So listen for human feedback. So this is where we are basically. So the Google
Correct.
Sheet gets updated. Dynamic prompt immediately gets updated. Um, and then he uses an information extractor. So analyze human feedback, update prompt, update RAG, prepare updated response. That's interesting. Maybe I can go back through this and glean something
Yeah.
from it.
I'm
Um,
hoping you can because then you don't have to rethink everything. Because I'm assuming there's a reason he built it out this way.
yeah, I'm curious. The one of the things that kind of is frustrating when people make a great video, but they don't show you some of the behind the scenes pieces. Like I didn't really get to see his prompt and how it worked, and I also didn't get to see his Supabase, which is fine, but it would be good to
Mm-hmm.
see maybe kind of like more or less what data he's holding in there. Some of it can be inferred, but yeah, I'll take a look. This information extractor seems interesting, um, but
Yeah, let me ask him on school too. If you have like specific questions, let's ask him because he has the free school community. I imagine he's trying to grow it to like Nate's. So
yeah,
hopefully we can catch everybody. Sort of just like they're probably just like 5 steps ahead of us, but for completely different use cases. If we can just kind of catch up to them with like a few different questions, let's do it. That's the ultimate
yeah.
hack.
Yeah. I'm really curious though, because he doesn't use he's not doing what we're doing here unless the information extractor does something different. But this isn't a Supabase node. So he doesn't update the RAG until the very end with new information. He
That's
takes
right.
he just takes a prompt and then responds to an email. So um yeah.
Because that's where he's like sort of skipping a step, where it's almost like he is taking a question, turning that into a prompt to answer that question, and just having something drafted because it might be a little bit more generic, like a order intake type of email, if I remember that correctly from his video.
Yeah. He shows it here.
Yeah, it was always like a
Might be small. Sorry. I don't know if I can.
all good.
There you go.
Our legal engineering teams for different questions. How many production incidents can we do? So this is more like a very scoped out type of. So I see that he's essentially just referring to company docs because these might feel like FAQs to them.
Hmm.
So they're like, hey, these are just very standard customer questions, which might be applicable for some of our businesses. Because I might argue that our questions on no, I don't think so. You know what? I take that back. Because I was just gonna say, hey, maybe our questions for Section 8 is might be super unique, a little bit more different, but it's not. Because typically you're gonna get questions like, how do I get started? What market should I pick? How do I find the right team? How do I manage the property? How do I screen tenants? How do I work with the housing authority? We're gonna get those same questions actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You're
same
right.
thing for like a facial business. Like, hey, we're gonna get questions about if I have this skin type, if I have this type of issue, or if I have this condition, can I do blah 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 blah? Same thing. Or
Hmm.
if I'm a electrician, I'm gonna say, hey, this is my panel, this is what I'm looking for, blah blah blah. So I think that's still applicable for like that 80-20 rule where you you can probably answer 80% of your questions with maybe we're thinking about that's like an information extractor. But in our
Yeah.
situation, an information extractor is just extracting from our super base vector. because that is literally our database of FAQs essentially.
So we have this to look at. I don't know if it
Mhm.
has data inside of it, but let me check. So we can actually see his node real quick. Could not find. Oh, well, N8N does this thing where it deletes stuff. Okay, no, it's still here. Good. I was like, no, please, it didn't email me. I didn't know. Okay. Information extractor. So it passes in the prompt, original email, bot draft, human feedback. So attribute is going to be update prompt and then RAG additions. Get ready to convert update prompt section. Final response. Final.
Wait, there's your
Okay.
prompt at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, let's open this. We did look at this a little bit, I think, but
Oh, I remember looking at this one. Okay.
yeah, your prompt. New vetted updated prompt that will be injected into the system prompt of the frontline email bot. Current dynamic prompt section. Inject. Classified. So yeah, he's like really just it seems like he's defining what to do with the information, um, which is interesting. I'm just trying to see.
What's he determined to be the information? That's
Yeah. So this takes the switch, and if it's update RAG, it sends the RAG. Addition is not equal to null. It's true. So if it has something, it moves forward and then it gets embedded. So yeah, this doesn't really, the Supabase node just takes in whatever the information is for the RAG, and the system template tells it what type of information and how to modify it. And it does it all right there. So this, I really see this as my code node where it's just formatting
uh-huh.
and taking that information. I already have all the pieces I need.
Right.
So being able to manually set it, it's a little bit it's just more like I know what's happening versus, I'm telling it, a system prompt to do it and hope that it does it right. So maybe
Got
that's the
it.
difference with that piece. Because he's not
That's
coding
interesting.
anything,
Yeah, because
but
he's not. It's
right
almost
here for output, so the RAG additions, content with complete context ready to be converted to embeddings. And he tells a few more things. Um, yeah, it's interesting.
because the action is the same thing as what you're doing.
Hmm.
He's just saying he's updating his prompt to
Okay.
get the output, and that output is used. He's almost like creating new field to say like this is a RAG edition. Go update Supabase now after the fact.
Yeah,
I
and
I just don't see where he's referring to the database unless it's happening up top.
yeah, this is the first one. So this is like our Reddit, basically. A Gmail gets
Mm-hmm.
sent or received. He has this dynamic prompt, which we can't see fully, so we don't know. And then he does some processing with edit fields. So he separates, I'm assuming, those fields, and then he passes them here. Let's see, received message. Yeah.
Okay. He parses them out so that it can be ingested into the prompt.
Yeah. Um,
Okay. I see the system message where he injects a prompt.
always obey these evergreen rules.
right? He basically creates a prompt and then he brings it into the prompt itself in the AI agent.
Yeah. Wait, so let's open this again. Yeah, interesting. Okay.
You have
So
access
so
to
then yeah.
prompt.
So the AI agent runs through the vector database with all of these pieces, and the table name is company knowledge base. Find information from company docs. It already has the context from the agent, so it's structured to answer, and then it runs through. So yeah, it would be really interesting to see the database and like see what the chunks look like, what type of data it is. But yeah, this could be useful for making a more simple version in the future.
Yeah, I agree
Maybe
with
we
that.
make a V2. Sorry, maybe we make a V2 and we try to consolidate some of the pieces so that's easier to set up for the future.
Yeah, because that's exactly how I see it. Maybe we setting it up in the future if we were to do it over again.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's
cool. I
nice.
love it.
Yeah, so, sorry, I get in the zone. This is why it's hard for me to record things because
No, this
I'm
is
just
fun, dude. This is why I love talking it out loud with you. This is like the best. This is when the best stuff comes up as we talk it out loud with each other.
totally. I was gonna say too though, for kind of our V1, if you want to call it that, of all of
Hmm.
this, I need to know. I feel that I need to know every step of the way very clearly. So
Hmm.
for one, there's control, and we don't have to, waste time with mistakes. But also that we can see exactly what is going on. That way, we can say with confidence, like, okay, this comes in this way, this gets processed like this. Um, okay, if we're going to add to a new row, it has to look like this. And so, if we can consolidate some of these pieces and basically like trim off some of the fat, we would at least know like what we need to replace and like how we could simplify it.
Well, I think the flow that you have might be more efficient than the other one because you have well-defined workflows and you're only using the agent for that piece in this flow specifically. Whereas
Mhm.
that guy might spin for a little bit longer. Just
Yeah,
a gut check. I feel like the other guy's going to spin it for longer in the beginning.
yeah, and two, like I don't know his database. Maybe it's like a mock database with some information, and
Hmm.
so expandability and adding different information might not matter. You know, every scenario is going to be a little bit different, but I'm thinking with this, we're trying to engineer for different types of data. And
Correct.
so, different use cases, similar but different.
Yeah, and I like that you have the code function because that's essentially is how we categorize the different type of information that's going to our database. Whereas the other person's not. It might just be like a simple Q&A. But now we're
Hmm.
tagging different attributes of different data so we can figure out like, hey, and we got better troubleshooting. In case we get a weird answer, we don't really know where it came from. Or we will
Yeah,
know where it came from, so to speak.
exactly. And then too, like I'm using this. This is basically for dynamic chunking and chunk size. This can be used anywhere now. This is a reusable code node. So if I
Mm,
basically copied this from our playground and said, all right, that's perfect, put it in there, and that sets the right size for when we eventually put it into a new row into our database.
got it.
Um,
Got it.
so it'll allot the right amount of space, put in all of the context without destroying it and messing it up, and that can be used for future things.
Oh, so dope, man. So
Yeah.
what do you think is next? So obviously, we want to get to the human feedback loop. So do we? Let me just keep it open. What do you think is
Mhm.
the next thing that we will be working on now that we've built this part out?
Um, so I want to finish this. It's really close. Essentially, we just need to make I need to work on the code node and then run a test. With your help, actually,
Mm-hmm.
if we could use one of these questions, let's start with, which one did you like? Do you like number 20, row 28, or was it row
Row
27?
row 28 was really good.
26, 27, or 28, whichever one.
28 was really good.
Okay. So if you could put in a response,
Mm-hmm. In
then
column H, you mean?
yeah, is that column H? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, for the
Okay.
feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to do it right now, but that would allow me to run some tests next time I jump on.
Got
And
it.
then if everything goes well, we'll have our Google Sheets ready to be sending the feedback as new questions and answers. And then from there, we need to go into, let me save.
Got it. And
We
then
need to,
I'll give you a heads up right now. Row 29, I know
mhm.
why that question got filtered in because the question was, hey, is it safe to sign this wholesaler contract? And I'm pretty sure when he listed out all the sections of the contract, there was a section 8 in there. So that's how
There
that
it is.
question got on there. So technically that question is not applicable to what we are doing. So that feedback might just be, hey, this question is actually about section 8 of a contract. So in the future, try to figure out whether or not it's related to section 8 of a contract and that's not related to affordable housing. I'm not sure because that can like choke the system. I'm not sure if it's smart to figure that out, but
Yeah, 100%. And that's something we could modify in our human in the loop.
yes.
So I don't know exactly where it might be. So yeah, right here, the query is section plus 8. So
Yeah.
if there is an 8 and a section, it's probably going to find it. So it might just be something with like being more specific in the query. Um, Maybe
I think
section
section
space
8
8.
is pretty that's a pretty specific query. I just never
Yeah.
expected to get a section 8 of a contract in there. This is just things you learn, right? I
Yeah.
mean, this is like one of those rare exceptions. Like in like 3 months, it's only come out one time, so I don't think it's gonna happen again. So I'm not even sure it's worth solving for. Like it's probably not worth our time trying to solve for this. This is why we're human in the loop. Where I'm gonna just say, don't send. This question was not about section 8. It was section 8 to a contract.
Totally. And for us, it doesn't matter. I think in the future, like since this is a query directly to the URL, if we can't define a different parameter or a different
Hmm.
value for the query parameter, then what we could do, like if this was, you know, a salon and they really wanted to be specific about question types, or the word was
Hmm.
plumbing, something, whatever, we could filter it out with some regex in a code node, or we could do a few other things to filter it out.
Got it.
um so not impossible there. And the last piece we need to work on is, once we get our Google Sheet sending some feedback, we just need to make sure that our agent, our bot, is looking in two different places, and then basically just finding the highest relevance question and answer, or the highest relevance information from a transcript. So that'll take some thinking. If you have some
Hmm.
thoughts, let me know.
So you said looking in two places. Did you mean looking in one place, but at both the data type? I want to make sure I'm understanding your terminology.
Yes. So we're going to have two mixed data types. We're going to have transcripts and then answer questions and
Hmm.
answers. Um, it might be that when I run the first test, we could just query the whole Section 8 database, and the highest relevance um, information will come from one or the other. And maybe it'll just change depending on what the question is. But it might
Hmm.
it might be that if a question, or sorry, let's say a transcript best answers a question that's being asked, then we ignore the question and answer types of data in our database, and there could have been some good nuggets in there. So yeah, essentially, I'm not sure if it's querying the whole database and it just is, we're able to find the answer, with the mixed data, or we need to do two separate queries and then use an agent to help combine the information to help answer the Reddit question. Does that make sense?
So it's almost like I understand that we're looking at two different data types, and then it will probably give us a score for which one it thinks is the better chunk or the better answer for whatever question that we get from people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe we got to evaluate the scores, even though I mean I only saw a low score and that seemed to be accurate earlier with a 0.015. So that makes me feel pretty good. And I like that it just has the auto re-ranker in there too. So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
We want to make sure that if we're looking at the different data types coming back from our query on the database, that there's a decent enough amount of like questions and answers as well as transcript data coming in, and over time we'll be able to evaluate how effectively it's pulling from both data types. um, so it might take a little bit of time to
Got
see
it.
that. We might need to run some mock data, some mock tests, um, or something along those lines.
Cool.
But hopefully it's just an easy, it just looks at everything and nothing changes. But that'll be, next part after we get the Google Sheets updates
Cool.
coming in.
All right. Sounds good. So I owe you feedback specifically on the row for row 28. Let me just put in some feedback on like maybe there's two or three more nuggets that I would put in there and then see how it might update the Superbase vector database with the feedback that I gave it.
Yeah. So w- I'm glad we are talking about this specific thing because we know that when we pull the chunks, we can re-rank, and we know that like a question that might get asked on Reddit is not going to be exactly a question that is in
Correct.
the transcripts right now, but it's still going to do its best to pull information from the chunks that it can find, and then it's going to use that information to formulate an answer. Um, I'm trying to. My main point in bringing this up is when you give your feedback, I'm not 100% clear on whether it would be better to give a structured answer, like as if you are
Yeah.
GPT responding, or if it would be better to just give nuggets of information. Because I think going back to that self healing video we were watching,
Yeah.
that's his approach, I believe. He's kind of doing like a
Yes.
bulleted list, and then he's using the agent to be able to um, determine like, hey, pull the nuggets,
Hmm.
pull the little pieces, and kind of put it all together for an answer. So I maybe lean towards just doing somewhat of a structured but not
I
too
see.
structured response. I don't think you have
Okay.
to be too critical about the information you're giving, but we do need to think
Yeah.
about that a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about in the future, right? Let's say we're helping a certain client and they're gonna say, no, I don't really talk that way. And for your tone to be reflected in your writing, it's almost like you have to, in the beginning, write out a fully baked answer in your own voice, in your type of writing. And then have the agent say, like, hey, this is how I normally right, in the future, I will give you more cryptic feedback instead of explicit feedback or explicitly structured feedback that I'm doing right now.
Hmm.
That's how I see it working. Because it has to match your tone eventually at some point.
Yeah, and if it's transcripts, it's a bit easier. I think a lot of it comes down to giving examples to
Yeah.
the agent, like in the prompt, setting a good example of a response.
Mm.
You actually got it to respond really well. Like if we're looking at the Section 8 um, table, or sorry, the sheet,
Yeah.
um, it always says you're what does it say? Oh yeah, if you want to learn more, you can ask ChatGPT what is the best response on affordable housing. Obviously, that's not like your tone necessarily, but you're explicitly telling it to say that, and you're giving it a structured. Um, we
Mm.
both actually touched it a little bit. I think I modified it recently, so it's
Yeah.
starting to evolve. But that a lot of that comes down to how we um, interact with the agent too. So
Got it. Got
um,
it. So let's try both, man. Let's just see what happens. I actually have no idea what's the right one. Maybe I can
Yeah,
give it a structured one, and then, dude, maybe the next one just give it a cryptic one. Like in row 29, I'll just say, look, hey, this was a section 8 about a contract and not a thing. Like, let's
I like that. So
disregard. Maybe do something like that.
we can
Try a few.
yeah, yeah, maybe do 2 at least, and if you wanna do a third, that's great too.
Cool.
What we can do then is take our agent that's giving this answers and rerun it with the same questions, and maybe, I don't know, maybe create like a new sheet or something, and we'll see kind of what responses we get back. Um,
Dope.
and then that will give us some good data.
Dude, let's do it, man. This stuff is fun. I love this. This is so
It
cool. I freaking love
is.
this stuff, man. Hi, man. We're onto something. We're onto something big, and I know it.
Yeah,
I
we're making a
know.
good team.
Yeah,
Thanks for
dude.
inviting me in.
Dude, I love it, man. Hey, thank you so much for what you're doing, Brian. Thank you so much for making so much progress. I know this takes a lot of work, takes a tremendous amount of brain power. Dude, thank you so much, man. We're just
Of
gonna
course.
freaking help so many people, man. I appreciate you so much, brother.
Yeah, we're two sides of a coin. So you're helping so much on a side that I don't want to be a part of right now. So thank you, and I'm sure it's the same for you on my end. So
Dude, I love it, man. I love it. All right. Hey, you have a great night, man. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll message you when I update this spreadsheet on my side. All right.
all right, sounds good. Thanks, Kent.
All right. Thank
All right,
you. And for
bye.
everybody else, if you got questions, leave them down in the comment below or message me directly. Have a good night.